it's just unbelievable, the adaptation and how much in favor I think it's come towards what I think is the best way, because like you said, maybe 10% on a property manager to take care of it, and it does save me some hassle, but we have the direct deposit now where it's a deposit only account, and they could just be transferring it from their phone to you, and then you just check it on your phone, and you never even have to cash a check. So
Right.
I think that the technology is going to get there, and it's better than ever. Now we have smoke detecting systems that are really good to prevent your tenants from damaging inside the house. And, in a sense, and not that maybe, like in your case, you could actually, after buying a few more of these buildings, you could actually have your entire rent paid and have no attachment to that, you know, even though it may be a good idea to buy a house later, which you can do also.
At some point, if I ever felt so inclined.
It's opportunity, you've got to.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you know, in the way that I plan on investing is to try and compound equity on every investment. Try and compound the equity. Always buy it with equity. Like, you know, you always want the property to make sense the day you buy it. And that is with either profiting rent or a lot of equity or both. And, you know, if you could piggyback enough equity, you can compound it to the point where you get to the point, you get all these properties, you're living in, you know, apartment to apartment, you're sick of renting. You very well could have enough equity throughout your properties to just go buy the house you want. And you're not even buying it. Your properties you already own with their equity are buying it for you.
Yeah.
So, you know, even everything goes south, you know, you lose everything, you get sued, you know, you break your neck the same week, and you gotta lose all your properties, then you don't even lose your house. You still got your house, because that's completely been backed by the properties that you already own. You know, the value of that house is already in those properties, so they just take those properties and get out. They don't even bother you with your house.
Yeah, and it all depends on how you do it. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into the strategies on that. That's what I did. I bought my house cash, which I would say is an interesting strategy, but it's not for the light of heart, because at the end of the day, leveraging is, I think, the best way to do it. America's the only country you're going to get a 30-year loan up to, what, I think it's like 10 residences right now, even with the financial regulations. It used to be like 100. And for spouses, I think you can do it up to like 20. So there's no other place that allows you to do it to this extent and then have all of the options and the rule of law and everything being as predictable as it is. It's just, you don't feel as safe when you're living in other places, and it's just never been historically the same, you know. I think that's what's so appealing. I mean, you don't read stories of people buying in other countries en masse, like from China and from South America, and you just don't see it the same way, or just now Saudi Arabia buying in the U.S. It's because they just realize that you can go anywhere in the world, but why would you? Compared to what? And I feel like, yeah, there's equity that can be built here. The best way to build equity is to take something that's broken and isn't financeable to a certain extent, like we did with yours, and then add value. The same thing I did on my property. I added $100,000 in value by doing all our stuff cash and buying it cash, and that's a lot to deal with. It's not for everybody, but you kind of work your way up to those things. I didn't start with that, you know. It wasn't our first deal. And then even we bought a vacation home on a loan. I think the loans are a fantastic way to do it, because you're able to leverage risk and you have somebody else to back you. You know, me owning my house, if something really happened, would the insurance actually help us out? I don't know, because they don't have a big loan company that's going to freaking beat them up if they don't. You know, it's a little different being advocating for yourself, but I felt like it was the right decision at the time, and it's like, we're paying less than we would have paid in rent just for the operating costs at this point. So it was a good move and to get everything settled, and it was a good opportunity, but it was also just an extremely good opportunity that most people wouldn't have been able to get into. I feel like that's what's so interesting about this. There's so many different ways to do it in real estate, and everything's negotiable, that you really just need skilled negotiators and people that have the ability to count and to make sure that things are what they are, and then have the contractors come in and make sure that it is what it says it is, and you're not just surprised. I feel like that's probably the scariest part. When you go buy something in a store, you always think, you understand it, you know, you buy a table or something, you understand basically what's going on, you test it, you kind of get a feel for it. But with a house, it's a lot harder to identify those things, and you really need a team of people. That's why all this information is great, but at the end of the day, you still need someone who can execute it within a time frame, under stress, under negotiation, and after 30 years, we've developed a system that's just perfect for it. And there is no perfect transaction in real estate, but there is a camaraderie and a teamwork that is basically like that. As long as you don't quit on yourself, you're gonna get through this, you know? And that's what I said before, that's the worst part. I mean, you could have quit on yourself. We had that deal that was unusual. We had a couple of unusual things happen.
Right, yeah, I was under contract with a different property, probably a year to a year and a half, or 2 years or something before I bought the one that I own now. And it was a very, very unusual property.
Well, this is good too, because most people, what happened to you is actually what most people are scared of.
Right, yeah, it was, so it was kind of sold as a duplex, but it wasn't really a duplex. And of course,
it wasn't zoned for it, that's what it was.
Right, it wasn't zoned for it, it also wasn't, it was really set up more of like a single family with an in-law apartment as opposed to a real duplex. And basically I just saw that, this was before I had read any books or anything. We just started, and I'm like, oh yeah, duplex, great, I can make money off of this. And then what ended up happening, I don't know if we could call it divine intervention or something. I would probably not call it that. But
it could be looked at that way, though, couldn't it?
Some people like to say things, it wasn't meant to be. But the mortgage company that I was trying to get financing through ended up just delaying it to the point where we were under contract for 4 months at this point. And what I had done in the meantime, I had signed up for a real estate investing class while I was under contract. And I learned pretty quickly into the class that buying this property as a duplex, under that pretense, maybe it could have been a nice single family home with an in-law apartment, maybe, if the right person bought it. But buying this home because of the location, under the pretense of using it as a duplex, would have been a terrible, terrible investment. And so I backed out.
Which was still better than if you had gone for a regular single family, but not much better.
Correct. And I ended up backing out as soon as the mortgage company.
Well, we had the issue.
Right, the issue, and the locked-in interest rate expired because it had taken so long. The mortgage company kept, telling me I needed this inspection. And then a week later, they would say, you need this inspection. And then a week later, they would say, you need this inspection. And I kept telling them, just tell me every inspection I'm going to need. I will get them all. I will schedule it so it's all done in one day. And they just wouldn't do it. And it would take them a week in between every next thing that they needed. They dragged it out for so long that my interest rate expired. So I get to call from
which they penalized you for.
That's what they tried to do. That's what they tried to do. That was the unbelievable part. The representative from the mortgage company called me and he said, your interest rate expired. That means we're going to charge you 1 point and we're going to have to renegotiate your interest rate. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I've been the one trying to speed up this process.
They didn't disclose it up front.
Yeah.
And I've worked with these guys before, and then you got to remember when you're working with a big bank, although you may already have an account with them, I don't know if that was the case with you, but it doesn't matter. But it seems like they have a hard time, and that's why it's really important in this business to have referrals, because you just don't know what you're getting into if you don't. And then they didn't get the inspection after all that, and we had to go back and do it, and then it failed the pest inspection.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what it was, yeah, it failed the pest inspection because this was another lesson I learned on that one. I went with the cheap inspector, the will pass anything inspector on the home inspection, And then I used him again for the pest inspection, and he caught structural damage caused by carpenter ants,
Which wouldn't have been disclosed if we didn't need it, which is, it was only because it was a
Right.
rehab that you needed it, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so it was, so that was another lesson I learned, and, you know,
Yeah, home inspector,
Go-
go heavy on the home inspector, you don't wanna,
right,
that's not where you, that's where all the ammunition for the realtor comes too, that's how you give me the ammunition.
absolutely, like, you don't wanna be as the buyer, you know, you don't wanna make the stupid mistake that I did of saying, I want a home inspector that'll pass anything, so that I don't, cause you're setting yourself up for disaster.
Big
Like, and if I had purchased this house and then realized a couple months later that there was structural damage due to carpenter ants, I really, really would have been upset that I didn't pay for the good home inspector.
Right.
You know, because, you know, yeah, I just wanted the deal to go through. That's all. I wanted the home inspector to
And a lot,
say,
that's not
"It's
just your
good."
fault, a lot of people, that's what they want, and
Yeah,
as in the case of you, I never really get too upset when things don't work out, because later down the road, we end up with a way better deal,
absolutely.
way less stress, and that was some sort of bank owned. I don't remember, it was this weird company that is like a third-party vendor for bank.
The first one or the second
The
one?
Hubzu, it was, because the one in Farmington.
Yeah, that was on for some,
Because they had
some bank in California.
yeah. So what was crazy was that, so when it failed the inspection, because they didn't ask for the inspection up front during the inspection period, we already lapsed the escrow period, which is the deposit. So when people go to make an offer on a house, what they're terrified of, everybody, is they think they're gonna lose their escrow money.
Mm.
And so we dragged them out like, almost 6 months.
A full year.
Yeah.
We dragged him out a full year, because after I withdrew my
No,
offer.
not that part. I'm saying, but
Oh,
we had
okay.
gone about 6 months past the inspection, maybe 4 months past the inspection period.
Oh, yeah,
Which is
that was
bad.
under contract.
That's
Yeah.
unusual, and it was because of a bunch of issues with the 203K and the bidding. We had just extended, totally okay, but the inspection period was essentially over. And so they felt like we had wasted their time, which in all rightness, we basically agreed we had, and we agreed that it was the loan officer's fault, but, it's neither here nor there. And so they were looking to take the escrow money, which was probably, $1,000?
Yeah, I believe it was $1,300.
And so, at the end of the day, he still would have to sign for it to go away. So I told him, don't,
Yeah,
And so we waited.
very good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, I said, what do I do? He says, just don't sign the release. Okay, I won't sign the release then.
Right, and then
So-
Title Pro wrote me, because they had to hold it in escrow, and so they were trying to even out their bank, so they called us back. So we asked the bank 6 months later, hey, what do you guys think about half? And so-
Yeah.
And then they gave us half, right, yeah.
Yeah, so I did lose half of my earnest money deposit, but it was, it was better than losing all of it. And,
Or buying the house.
or buying the house,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So-
I'm still very thankful to have lost half my earnest money deposit and the money I spent on the inspections, and
Right.
it's so much better than actually having bought that house.
Yeah, so it ended up being maybe $1,200 to $1,500, but compared to anything that would have come along with it and down the road. And so that's kind of the worst case scenario. I mean, that was an angry bank who was basically in the right, and we still stalemated them for half. So, it's not really the type of thing to worry about. I just had a guy totally freak out at me about this, and it was just totally so not even the case. Like, they hadn't even deposited it yet. It's like, you can just rip up the check. So I think it's just one of those things that it's usually the first step, but as you know now, and I deal with investors, we'll put in 10, 15 offers a day on certain properties around the state to see what sticks to the wall. So when I say that your escrow is really not at risk unless there's some gross negligence or something comes up along after we've agreed, which is basically what happened. And there was some issue with the procedure on this one that was highly unusual. And even then, we dragged them out forever, and the bank was pretty accommodating for it. But at the end of the day, they just want to move on. And I feel like,
Yeah.
even if it was an angry seller, they're not in the business of taking people's escrow money. They want to sell their house, So I think this is just a fear that is totally it's just a formality, and it's a legal, there's a very specific rules to it. It's not like it's just cowboying and your money's, up to the quickest grabber, I feel like people
Right,
just have a
there
very-
really is there's a process to it, and there's regulations and guidelines, and
Yes.
that's what we're all following.
And as long as you know how to resolve it, which,
So yeah, from there I ended up, I hit the road for a little bit. After that deal went through, my work kind of dried up around here, and I ended up heading down south, South Carolina, Tennessee, working down there for a little while. And then when the opportunity came to work back home again, I came back home and just picked up where I left off. And I would say, what was it, maybe 6 months after I got back, we found an awesome house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now during that period, you had found the Kiyosaki program, which I think is an important point because I think one of the big lessons there is you don't need to spend money to learn this stuff. It's just something that you learn from spending time on it. And I think that was kind of what you got out of it, is that, it's certainly a good place to get information in a concentrated order, but it doesn't change how you still have to go out and do it. And you still got to do it for yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to spend a lot of money on real estate classes or anything like that. All of the information is there. There's so many successful real estate investors who have written books. And these books are they're anywhere from $10 to $25 a piece. And a lot of them are saying the same information, but I guess that's how you know it's accurate. And it's there. That's all they want as real estate investors. They're making money off of their book deals. That's their next thing that they're doing now. But they are successful real estate investors. You can read, you can take what they have to say.
If we could just go to a library and get them too,
Exactly, yeah.
Pay for it. That's
Yeah, I guarantee you every library has Robert Kiyosaki books.
all. Yeah, which is
Rich
I
Dad,
think
Poor Dad.
we all started there. It's just I think at some point his whole program is getting people that are extremely hard to move into doing it by charging them insane amounts of money that they could basically be buying a building for the same amount. I've seen his courses go as high as $40,000 and stuff like that. And I just feel like at that,
I didn't pay that much.
Yeah.
Not even close.
but it was still a decent amount of change.
Yeah,
And
it
just
was,
seems silly that's. It's sometimes that's what people think they need, but really what they just need is and what these things will teach you is that you need a group of professionals that can help you get there. Because with your deal with my house, it wasn't necessarily that we knew everything, but we got the people there that did, and we were able to.
yeah, it's even the opposite of us believing we know everything. It's us completely understanding and taking advantage of our awareness that we don't know everything.
And that constant. Yeah.
Exactly. And when you can take a look at a situation and say, well, this is where I'm lacking, then you can go and look for someone to fill that spot. And building a team of people who can fill those voids, so that you don't have to do it all yourself. That's going to make you a much more successful investor.